Hey there everyone, I present to you the first story of my channel, so prepare yourself for one true creepy stalker experience from Reddit. Enjoy! My freshman year of college was one of the best years of my life, and some of my fondest memories are from that year. But it was also the scariest and strangest year to date. I'm 31 now. This is thanks to one story in particular that takes place over the entire school year. I still sometimes wonder how this really happened and how I didn't end up like a shut-in nut job. It still freaks me out to this day, and I've only talked about it once or twice since it happened 13 years ago. Like most freshmen, I live in the dorms at a state party school. I opted out of the good school I got into. I guess I had a little steam to blow off after graduating from a military/college prep boarding school. Plus, after a sports injury, I didn't exactly have any specific plan for life that went past Saturday night, if you know what I mean. A good buddy of mine from military school, Bill, went to the same college and lived a few floors below me in the same dorm. So of course we were getting the party started before my parents' exhaust fumes had even evaporated from the parking lot. For the most part, the first month or so, college was pretty much like that. Normal. I went to most of my classes, partied just about every night, chased girls around, and that was enough for the moment. But things began to change one night, sometime in mid-September. And college for me would never be normal again. My dorm phone, a landline, only Zach Morris carried a cell phone in 2001. Get over it. Rings in the middle of the night. Hello? On the other end, I can only really describe the voice as the kind you picture when you think about a computer talking. Kind of like an early model car's GPS. Hi, Gary. How are you today? Not fully awake, I'm just confused at this point. Who is this? He repeats, Hi, Gary. How are you today? It becomes clear I'm being effed with, so I hang up and chuckle, effing Bill, nice one. Afterwards, I pass back out. I end up forgetting about the call for a few days and never mention it to Bill or anyone else. About a week later, I get another call around the same time of night. Hi, Gary. I'm watching you. Nice. Very cliche. Seriously, Bill, how are you not knee-deep in Everclear or a Trido at this hour? Enough already. Cade, my roommate at the time, is starting to get pissed off. I hang up. I casually confront my oh-so-clever Migo at breakfast the next morning, not purposely trying to bite too hard that might give him a payoff that might incentivize continued calls. I also wasn't 100% sure it was actually him and not one of my other douchebag friends. He gives a genuinely confused response. Whatever. So a couple days after the second call, I come home and see I had multiple messages on my answering machine. I barely even knew that thing even worked. It's computer voice guy. We'll call him CVG. Message 1. My machine cuts off the first 1 to 2 seconds of the message, which tells me it's a bot set to play upon answer. Hi, Gary. I'm watching you. Message 2. I thought I asked you to answer my calls, Gary. Message 3. Where might Gary be on a Tuesday night? Okay, so one of my friends is clearly an asshole, or bored enough to really push for a reaction here. The next day, I play the messages for Cade, who was around during the calls, which were apparently early in the night when he was still awake. He had been a close buddy since we went to junior high together, but we'd sort of taken separate paths after high school. So anyway, he's aware that I'm a wild child and thinks nothing of the first couple messages. By the third, he's a little spooked. I then walk down to a couple other buddies' rooms and casually, but immediately bring up the subject. Nothing. Over the next couple days, I press all close and semi-close friends, but get 0 answers and 0 suspects. The calls start coming more frequently over the next couple months, starting at once a week, then once to every 2 to 3 days, up to every day by Christmas break. I don't say anything to my family at this point, although I really should have. What started out as a decent beginning of college turned into not showing up for any classes, tests, or anything else. Grades reflect that I am too busy answering for a .67 GPA to talk about some dumb prank that will likely be dismissed as a pathetic attempt at grades explanation. So it goes. Uneventful break and back to school, determined to become a new man. I gotta get my shit together with these grades, so I tell Bill I'm gonna have to chill out and focus on school. First night back, I get my first spring semester call from CVG. How is your family in Cyprus? My hometown suburb. Okay, now this is effing BS, man. What kind of douchebags am I hanging out with that even have the decency to drag out a prank this long? I get the answer to that question a few days later, and the answer is none of them. Calls become threatening and downright dark. I'm very interested, Gary, in being close to you. Yeah, with a weird kind of sentence structure like that. I have tools I can bring. It's all going to be over soon. One day I bring Bill and all my other buddies up to hear the messages. Never deleted a single one for some reason. I guess when things happen over longer periods of time, you really don't feel a cumulative impact until laying out the complete package of evidence. The guys are in shock. I guess I should mention that some of these calls got really specific in making sure to know specific details about my parents' address, as well as the violence they were planning on doing to me. Cut open your esophagus, Gary, with a butter knife, and all sorts of other crap that are sort of blurred together through the hundreds upon hundreds of calls I got over the school year. A chick friend of mine that I really liked in high school, named Layla, goes to a different school hundreds of miles away. We've reconnected thanks to good old AIM and talk from time to time on the phone. CVG had mentioned a couple times, your friend, and made threats about this unspecified person from time to time. But your friend turned into your friend Layla. Layla and I are the only two people ever named in these calls, but it did get me wondering if this was a new lead to the source. Layla is clueless when I call her about it. Awesome. I know that background was long to read, but you'll understand why I had to explain the situation when I tell you about what happens next. One night we're all partying and drinking at some hotel. I forgot to mention that all that straight A talk went out the window as these events progressed. A different buddy of mine, Carl, has a nice big truck we'd go everywhere in, but he'd pass out drunk at the hotel after pounding an entire bottle of something. I'm not really drinking tonight and want to get back in my own bed. I snatched Carl's keys to drive back to campus, thinking I'll drive back in the morning to get everyone. This was one of the few times I'd even driven that year, so I wasn't tip-top on my directions. I make an early turn and am somehow down a road I've never seen. I realize it's pretty quick, but I figure I've got the general direction of campus pegged, so I can just continue down the wrong road until hitting the familiar highway that I knew I'd eventually have to hit that is close to campus. I'm finding myself in open fields, still a paved road and everything, but aside from the road there was absolutely nothing and it was completely black. Around 3 a.m. there's this really strange four-way stop I come upon. Strange because I'm probably the fourth person in a year to drive down that road. Anyway, I trudge along and eventually get to the familiar highway and home free. A few days later, CVG interrupts his usual depraved, threatening messages to mention that specific four-way stop, day, and time that I was on it, which is, like I said, around 3 a.m., and there wasn't a soul in sight. So yeah, I now realize CVG is obviously tracking my movements somehow. Note, I later joined the military, worked in the intelligence community, and worked in special operations and tracked bad guys all around the world. To this day, I still can't figure out how this dude knew I was in the middle of those fields on that date in the middle of the night. I never mentioned it to anyone. Around March, his apparent rendezvous became CVG's focal point, and he'd make sure to let me know the day we were close. The calls were coming in no fewer than 10 or 15 every single day. Seriously. The ringer was now off out of courtesy to Cade, and I turned down the volume of the answering machine as his phone calls recorded. But I finally get the message I'd been waiting for. Keep in mind, I've now become somewhat famous at this university by now because of CVG. People were constantly knocking at my door wanting to hear the messages, a friend of a friend or whoever I knew at the time. It was all people wanting to hear about it at parties. Blah, blah, blah. For a split second, it was cool because I'm pretty sure I ended up getting a few dates indirectly from the introductions conceived through interest in the guy with the stalker. Don't judge me. Moving right along. The date, time, and location are set. We will meet in front of Coleman Hall at midnight, Wednesday, 27 April, and we will take our friendship to the next level. I know what you're thinking, and yeah, throughout the year I had considered the possibility that I was dealing with a female. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And I was definitely that kind of dude when I was 18 to 19 years old, the kind that would attract cleanliness and anger. But I started to rule out female for various reasons that only a fellow ENFJ would understand. Look it up if you're not tracking. I can build profiles with a very high ratio of accuracy to available information. This creep just didn't feel like a female to me. It didn't even feel like a peer. I was convinced I was dealing with a mid-30s white male computer nerd that I'd come in contact with at some point in my life. It doesn't really matter because what I ended up finding out on Wednesday, 27 April, which by the way was Layla's birthday, interesting, I was wrong. Of course, everyone wants to be part of this juicy story, and there's a pretty ridiculous amount of testosterone floating around the dorm on game day. This was a real-life creepster and a legit horror story unfolding before their very eyes, and a group thing was subvert caution if properly motivated. These guys are ready to defend me with their very lives. Just ask them. So while these monkeys are getting all hopped up in Mountain Dew, I see home that afternoon wondering what the F I was going to do at midnight. Of course I was going to go, but dude, yeah, I've always been an athlete in good shape, wrestling, football, baseball teams, yada yada. But I'm still a 19-year-old white male. Good parents, grew up in the upper class white suburbia, had a good life. In other words, I can definitely hold my own in a street fight. But this, whatever this is, doesn't feel anything like a street fight or any other kind of fight I've been in. This is a disturbed, violent, angry, possibly grown-ass psychopath that has decided to dedicate almost a full year now of his life to targeting and terrorizing me. So yeah, I'm a little friggin' nervous. My home team crowd steadily built up throughout the afternoon and evening, with probably close to 70 or 80 guys grouped up at our dorm's common area. We were connected to the female dorm at the first floor, smoking cigarettes and talking about beating the crap out of people and getting effed up and all the other generic cliche crap you can imagine. Once the party hour approaches, though, over half the guys splinter off into other various propositions that probably include more than traditional fun like beer bongs and sorority girls. I'm left with about a 15 to 20 member platoon. I had decided earlier that I was not going to allow all these knuckleheads to shadow me, but I could definitely use them in a case of emergency. I didn't want to risk him spooking out of the meet, so I let them know that they wanted to stay inside the doors of the common area while I walk out to the meeting spot. Coleman Hall was adjacent to our connected girls' dorm, and about 300 paces outside door to door to get to Coleman. The witching hour came, so I leave the crew to begin the longest couple hundred or so paces of my life. My boys can see me through the glass doors, but wouldn't really be able to see much once I get to the Coleman Hall door. About 100 paces out from my spot, I observed two things at the same time. One, some kind of small, quick movement in front of the patio walkway that goes all the way around the building. And two, the movement was in a spot along the walkway where the only normally uber bright bulb is out. I'm not exactly sure how I was able to see him, but I suddenly realized someone is crouched behind one of the contiguous cookie-cutter bushes outside the patio perimeter against one of the building pillars. In dark clothes and a hoodie, he is a few feet off from the path where I'm supposed to meet him, and positioned to where I really should not have been able to see him, given the pillar blocking any shadow plus a smashed-out light. In fact, I could have easily walked all the way to the door without ever noticing someone was there. Nope. I sort of jump mid-step as this happens, and I see him raise up, possibly realizing he's been spotted. I see him raise up and take a step towards me, and my fight-or-flight senses kick in. I've learned that my particular fight-or-flight chooses fight in more mild situations, flight during intense situations, but for crap-your-pants situations, it's scarier to run away with your back to whatever scary situation I'm dealing with. So, I fight. Before I realize what I'm doing, I'm in a dead sprint towards this guy, who I'm guessing sees what I can't see yet, which is my platoon busting through the glass doors in a hot pursuit. Creepster nopes the F out of there, running on the patio along the Coleman Hall towards the parking lot. I can tell this isn't the mid-30s computer nerd I predicted. Creepster is above average height, above average broad, and built athletically. That's all I could really tell. I'm not even sure if he was white, because he was at least tan, if not Hispanic, Middle Eastern, etc. I'm really booking it as he right turns on a dime at the edge of the building. I realize I'm moving fast enough to catch him, but everyone else is really far behind. I also realize I'm moving so fast I won't be protected as I turn hard right at the corner of the building. If he stops there, I'm toast. As I turn the corner, I see the van sitting there alone in the parking lot in front of me. It's running and brake lights flicker on and then off. Park into drive. And begins inching forward towards the exit. Homeslice is of course heading for the van, which for some reason sent this whole new level of fear into me. This is it. This is really happening. I'm going to get effing murdered tonight. But I can't stop. Something keeps me moving forward. I guess I'd come this far. I dealt with this crazy BS for almost a full year now, completely unable to do anything other than try to ignore it. I'm not exactly going places academically at this point, and my life doesn't quite have all that much purpose to it yet. If I'm going to get swacked, I will at least know that this crap will at least be over. Plus, I still have a chance to catch this madman before he gets away. If I could get close enough to dive tackle, I would still be on my own to deal with this creepster, his driver, and now I realize there's a third one that was manning the sliding side door. Awesome. I don't care how badass you think you are when you're a 19-year-old jock, your chances of taking down 3 grown men that are already violent criminals and prepared to victimize are 1 and not gonna effing happen. My turn is wide and slow due to being full on sprint, and I lose ground. I'm probably about 20 yards from the lot when he does a flying leap into the side of the van. There couldn't have been any rows of seats for a leap like that. Creepster number 3 slams the sliding door shut as the van peels out of the parking lot, bangs to right, and is gone in an instant. The relief of not being kidnapped, bound and gagged in that van with 3 psychos who most likely had some pretty horrific plans for me is now just as strong as the dread of fact that this is still not over with. I was speechless, and so was my platoon as they catch up a minute later. A few of them caught up to witness the parking lot scene, but no one was talking. Testosterone has now been replaced with genuine and earnest concern. They all just stood there with me, catching their breath and making sure I was alright. One guy asked if anyone got the plate number. Not even I did. Not enough light. We finally start walking back, and I'm reliving the scene as we retrace our steps. As we get closer to the original meeting spot, I see something that scares me more than anything else that has happened up to this point. On the opposite side of the pillar where the creep was crouching, there's a video camera sitting on a stand pointed right at the spot I would have been standing when I should not have been able to notice him. It's still recording. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the story. Please like, comment, and share if you did. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can hear more videos like this in the future. Peace.